Live from iRacing's virtual Martinsville Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the final race on the round of 8 as the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series playoffs continue. Tonight is the penultimate race of this 2024 season, and at the end of tonight's Team Conti Sim Performance 250, we will know the 4 drivers who will fight for the final Full Throttle Cup in series history in 1 week's time at iRacing's virtual Phoenix Raceway. But first, the task at hand, and for that we welcome you into the RaceSpotTV booth. We're alongside Derek Watson. My name is Evan Pasoko. Our producer is Joshua Lee, and the storylines coming out of last week weren't necessarily that of celebration for the Cody Harris camp with a race win locking themselves into the championship for Derek. It was more so a sigh of relief not having to be one of the 6 drivers who are entering tonight with that big question mark. You see Irons, you see Harris, they are locked in. Nieto and Cato enter tonight in on points, but look at the heavy hitters below the cut line. Burke, Phillip, Lariah, those bottom 2, the top 2 cars all season, maybe, just maybe, in a position where they need to win tonight to advance.
Yeah, Evan, I talked to both Agnew Phillip and Michael Lariah pre-race, and they're both treating this like a must-win scenario. Agnew acknowledges that maybe there's a long shot on points with stage points that he gets in, but he says, no, it's win and in. That's the only goal.
And we'll see if that can be accomplished here tonight at the smallest and toughest racetrack maybe on the calendar. We are back at Ridgeway, Virginia at iRacing's virtual Martinsville Speedway. This track clocks in just over a half mile in length, 12 degrees of banking in the corner. It doesn't feel like it though when you try to wrestle these race cars hooked up and around the bottom. It is going to be close quarters racing as it has been all playoffs long. The margins between your playoff drivers, and they're going to be super thin because there's not a lot of non-playoff cars. It's almost a 50-50 split throughout the field. So yes, 16 points for a Phillip or somebody else doesn't sound at a first glance like it's must-win situation, but with the points available, you're going to need every spot you can get, and it has been in the last 2 weeks. I think the bonus points at the midway point also going to be super critical. We're taking a live look in, Derek, at the qualifying session. As always, 5-minute session, 2 laps. Best lap counts towards the grid. You're taking a look at the number 12 machine right now of Ross Cato.
And ironically, Evan, it's a 5-minute qualifying, but we'll use almost none of it here. Lap times, less than 20 seconds per lap here. So these drivers will likely be done with their qualifying laps in well less than a minute. And then some of them will use the rest of this time here to just get some more practice in, get comfortable in that line, get comfortable getting in the gas off the corners, and all of those key elements that make short track racing so difficult for most drivers. Watching here again as his car comes around, has turned both of his laps here. He is done, and now it's going to pull it down the pit road.
He currently sits number 9 on the speed chart. You see Harris and Irons. They flash up the board to 2nd and 3rd, but it is the driver at a must-win situation. Agnew Phillip currently top of it all at the moment. You see Mike Maddox in the number 30 car on his first lap. He and Steven Soa, the only 2 drivers yet to put down a time into qualifying. It looks like Soa not on track, will not attempt one. We'll see what Maddox does. 20.929, a little bit of work to do after lap number 1. He'll go on his 2nd one. That 2 is Sam Nieto. Also now just on a bonus lap. That's his 3rd lap out there. He's already locked in for P6 unless Maddox can best him. He's just using this as an opportunity for a bit of extra practice.
And hey, why not? You get an idea of what the track temp is. You get an idea of what the track feels like after a few laps of getting the tires worn. And hey, best news, it's a clean track, Evan. Unlike the practice the drivers had earlier, there's no other cars in the way, no one spinning around you, no one creating smoke in the air. You just sort of get to come out here and really zone in and lock down some laps. And listen, in RSR Cup history, knock on wood, Evan, we're known to have some good green flag clean laps here. So we'll see if Martinsville can hold up that tradition.
Yeah, we'll see. Back once upon a time, Martinsville was a place of 20-plus cautions, not just here on Monday nights, but kind of all over the sim. Scared a lot of leagues away from racing at this place more than once a year. You take a look at the past winners. Michael Araya is on that list. Andrew Friedosh, even outside of his dominant title-sweeping era, branching into that 2022 season with 3 consecutive trips to victory lane. But that from 21 on, it has been just one visit to this racetrack a year, and of course it would be a big storyline if Michael Araya could capture a race win here tonight and go back to Martinsville Speedway victory lane. He's somebody else who feels like he may need to be in that position in order to get the job done. The clock will slowly wind down on the qualifying session, and we are going to be ready to drop the green flag on the 29th race of this 2024 season. So let's go trackside. Take a look at your Team Conti sim performance starting grid. It will be none other than the multi-time defending Cup Series champion. He's done it many times, looking to become a 3-time. Agnel Phillip is on pole position in the A51 Pro X Altus number 94 Chevrolet, and he'll be joined on the front row by a man who took home a huge win just a week ago. It is his teammate, the number 28 car of Cody Harris. Third starter tonight is the second driver already locked into the championship for the number 1 of Peter Irons. Starts inside of row 2, and outside of him, the driver who nearly played spoiler a week ago, it is the 4-time champ Andrew Friedosh in 4th. Back on row number 3, the Flat Out Esports number 44. That's Michael Araya starting 5th tonight, and the Flat Out number 2 of Sam Nieto right next to him in P6.
We'll move back into P7, find Austin Coop back there next to Brandon Gass in P8. That's row number 4. Ross Cato and Bradley Burke make up row number 5. And then Manazzi Major and that Sprite Machine will be number 11 next to Braden Whitaker in P12.
That means lucky number 13 starting spot tonight goes to Eric Papineau in the number 10 car. Mike Maddox, last car with the time in qualifying. His XPM number 30 starts in 14th. And then as anticipated by Provisional, Stephen So with the Subpar Racing 75 will start in 15th. That's a look at your Team Conti starting grid. Connected oval sim racers with some of the best to have competed at the highest levels of eNASCAR iRacing competition. Their wide variety of setup offerings to their coaching services that help racers reach their fullest potential. Go to teamconti.gg for more information. We take a look at the track conditions. Nothing jumps off the page. Derek, may be a little bit cooler than what we've seen in some of the past weeks.
Yeah, maybe a little cooler in a series where we typically see some hot track temps. That will definitely play into the factor. The fact it's already 3:30 in the evening virtual sim time on the 3rd of November means it will probably get a little cooler and maybe even darker as this race progresses. We'll wait and see how that turns out here. But you're right, pretty normal track conditions overall. As we get through our pace laps here, you see there 4 additional sets of tires. We can do the halfway points there as you see on your screen. And I think we're just about ready to go.
Only Martinsville and only Bristol reached that lap counter of 250. So by the lap distance marker, one of the longest races of the season, one of the biggest races of the season. We're about to find out who's in and who's out. 2 spots left in the championship 4 on the line tonight. And as always, we're happy you're spending your Monday night with us here with RSR on RaceSpotTV. Pace car down and in. Agnel Phillip field to control as he looks for a walk-off round of 8 win. Let's go racing at Martinsville. Advantage early to the pole sitter. Agnel Phillip launches out in front. He's already 7/10 of a second clear of the new P2 runner, Peter Irons. Irons was very candid, Derek, in his post-race interview the last couple of weeks that he does not want Agnell Phillip as a championship competitor in Phoenix. So while, yes, Irons is locked in, and no matter what happens tonight, he'll fight for the title, do not take that to mean that the one car does not want to win this race.
No, you're right. He kind of even hinted last week to us, Evan, that he tried to make like a Survivor-style secret alliance with Cody Harris to make that happen. And I thought to myself, does he know Cody's, Agnell's teammate? Or I'm not sure, but we'll wait and find out here and see how that plays out. But I think the best news for Agnell Phillip is he has two cars here in Irons and Harris that are sort of acting as like a moving roadblock to fourth place Michael Araya. Michael Araya is definitely, Evan, a win in. No way about it. No points, no bonus points, no stage points can save him. He isn't winning in, and he is right now blocked by those two cars.
It's a tall order. 20 points to the outside is your defending Martinsville winner. 15 cars on track. It'd be hard to find those margins over several drivers as he's in the last spot. There's your onboard look. Now he looks on last week's winner Harris at a battle for third, looking to the inside in 3. 28 car does not give the real estate that time, and the SimSpeed Chop Chevrolet has to try again and line it up. A lot of competitive action at the front of the field. Laria's up a spot, so is Irons. And if you're Cody Harris, all you can do tonight is try to help your teammate Agnell Phillip advance through and win this race. So he should also try to not make this one that easy on the 44.
Well, first thing needs to help Evidence and exit out of that corner there, because not here out of 4, but out of 2. You saw that car wiggle a lot. And man, look at Michael Laraya. He is not patient tonight. Up on the bumper, Cody Harris making some small bumps and now gets by down here in turn 3.
On the bottom of the racetrack, he is through, and at the end of lap number 9, make it 2 spots lost from the start of this race for Cody Harris, and is Agnell Phillip's wingman slipping through the running order, as now he has Irons and Laraya lined up behind him in second and third position. Irons hasn't made up much ground on the leader. That gap still 0.7 of a second up to the race leader. But the one car last time, good lap. It was a 19.499 for Phillip. It was a 4.08 for Irons. So maybe a touch better for the driver in that number 2 spot. Nothing yet in terms of lap traffic, but if we do get substantial green flag runs in this race, that'll quickly become a storyline, just given how small this racetrack is.
Yeah, as you said, one of the smallest, if not the smallest track that we have available in iRacing as far as an asphalt oval is concerned. And you will catch lap traffic very quickly here. I said in qualifying, less than 20-second lap times on average right now as the tires wear off. We may get up to 20 seconds, but not much above that here. But look at this now. Peter Irons slowly reeling in Agnell Phillip. But man, look at Evidence. That car went by that corner. See how those brake pedals are already glowing inside that car? Watch the orange. There it is, right there on the outside of that tire. That shows how much they're on the brakes here, how much the brake pedals are being used through the corners here, and how important the skill of braking is here at Martinsville to get yourself to be successful.
It is a truly challenging art form on the surface, and you can see those front brake rotors are just glowing already on Agnell Phillip's machine, and we're only now 14 laps complete of 250 that are on the board in this one as we will race into the evening here in Ridgeway, Virginia. No other movement inside of the top 5. It's Phillip, Irons, Laraya, Harris, and Friedosh. Remember those playoff drivers highlighted in red on the scoring pylon left of your screen, but Agnell is a perfect example as he drives under the flag stand there. You're looking for those red indicators on the race cars as well, the windshield banners, the spoilers, and the splitters. But the high-level refresher is that Peter Irons and Cody Harris are already in. The other 6 fighting for the 2 available positions. Irons is trying his best to chip into this lead, but it seems pretty stagnant at the moment. If anything, some of the other battles on track where you need to look at, and there's one for P7 as Brandon Gass up and on the 2 car.
Yeah, I see lots of cars here up and just kind of making contact, pushing when they can here. But look at Sam Nieto. Sam, of course, that was interesting to me, Evan, last week. Had a little bit of a moment last week where he's kind of got frustrated. I thought, man, if Sam was that frustrated at Homestead, Martinsville could be dangerous for him, because this is a place where drivers get frustrated because you get blocked. You get cut off, you get bumped, you get hit, you get turned. There's nowhere to go. So we'll see if Sam can keep it together. And man, that frustration and that anger and that temper can sometimes cost you time in the car, and that could cost him a spot in Final Four.
Funny to think that sometimes patience is important, and that doesn't normally go hand in hand with Martinsville. But you're right. I mean, we thought that if Homestead was getting the best of some of these drivers, that it was going to be a whole different story here at Martinsville just because of close quarters. And yes, even with a smaller field of 15 cars, there are still going to be those moments where people get on top of each other, people rub people the wrong way, and I'm sure driver radio chat will light up at some point in tonight's contest. You even see some smoke there in turns 1 and 2. Some drivers maybe even locking up the front tires under braking as they woe these cars down from about 120 miles an hour, 3/4 of the way down the straightaways, down to 60 nearly in the center of the turns.
Yeah, very hard to do. In fact, hard to use these brakes correctly and not burn up those tires. That's the most important thing here is tire wear. We're going to go forever on gas here. So if you cannot maintain those tires and keep them, usable, you'll be hurt in a big way pretty quickly here at Martinsville. So you really have to be good at it. There's a real big skill to short track racing and braking points and how much brake to use and when to rotate the car. It's not as easy as these guys make it look here. These guys are amazing at doing it, as we're watching Cody Harris and Andrew Freenach here. And look at that. Andrew's gaining time in the corner. That means he's getting on the brakes a little later and just kind of running down Cody Harris. But man, the story right now for me, Evan, is Cody Harris. I mean, he seemed confident last week when we talked to him about Martinsville. He didn't seem to indicate he has a hard time here. Now, he did tell me in practice today he was having a hard time, said he couldn't run more than 5 laps without looping the car around. Well, he's done that successfully, but he is quickly falling down the board here.
Yeah, early slip, now P4, as mentioned, and with the pressure coming from Freenach in behind, it could easily be further down the road before we even know it. So those cars continue this battle for 4th and 5th on the racetrack. They're already 2+ seconds and change, though, off of the leader. Yes, we know that once you lock yourself into Phoenix, maybe the amount of laps you put in during the week drops. I'm sure if he didn't win last week, he probably would have doubled up or tripled up on the amount of practice that he actually did, knowing, what's on the line. But it doesn't mean that you just kind of lose all of the talent. Again, all of these drivers very familiar with all of the racetracks that we go to this season. That's Homestead last week, that's Martinsville this week, and that's Phoenix for the finale in just 1 week's time, included in that list. Up front, the Brownie 4 of Agnell Phillip, though, has been reeled in, and this battle here was top billing on the ticket if you were tuning into this race to see the very best to go at it. Agnell Phillip and Michael Lariah. Agnell is a 12-time race winner this season. Michael Lariah has been to victory lane as well, one of the top point scorers, most consistent drivers in the league as well. And both of them at the bottom of the round of 8 grid into tonight in 7th and 8th spot. Both of them likely needing a race win to lock themselves into the championship 4. And right now, to nobody's surprise, they are the class of the field in 1st and 2nd.
Now, what's interesting here is when I talked to Michael Lariah about a half hour ago, the question I asked Evan was more about the end of the race. When I said, hey, Michael, would you bump Agnell to win? Are you okay pulling a bump and run? He said, hey, I won't wreck him, but I'll give it a small little nudge. And in my back of my mind, Evan, that was an end race storyline. That was like, lap 245, 246. Here we are, below lap 50. And already that question may be prevalent. Already, maybe we'll see if Lariah is willing to kind of take the lead here with a small bump and see if he can run away with it.
Timing going to be critical as well. I had referenced earlier we didn't find lap traffic yet, but look at this right in front of the race leaders. Some lap traffic on the horizon. Battle for position between 13th and 14th placed cars, Eric Papineau and Steven Soa. Where do they go in comparison to the leaders? Soa will stay high. That gives it about as normal as a corner entry as you could expect for both of those two cars, and good for Phillip and Lariah that they were able to clear Soa before the exit. If you catch that slow slower car up on the outside and it affects your corner exit, it could really mess one of these cars up. They both get through without incident. Looks like Iron's also going to be able to get through in third without incident. So that timed out well because Papanow and Zoe were side by side, 2.5 laps to go. It looks like it will not be as messy as I thought it might be, but they're still going to have to navigate what this 10 car does.
Well, and the problem these guys face is that Papanow and Soa are in a battle for position of their own. Yes, they're racing for 13th and 14th, and you know, your typical kind of racing mind says, hey, like, you're racing for 13th, get out of the way. But tell race car drivers to get out of the way when they're racing for something. They don't care if it's for 1st or 5th or 13th. When you're racing for something, you're racing for position. You don't want to give that up. And by Steven Soa doing the right thing and moving up that lane like that, I mean, he gave up a tremendous amount of time to Eric Papanow. So that could be the challenge in catching lap traffic sometimes. Now, the traffic they're going to catch here, there's no battle. So they obviously hope this car just goes high, lets them by, and we'll see how that goes out here. But sometimes lap traffic is not always as easy to navigate as you want it to be.
And it is going to be more and more frequent as the night goes as well. Maddox high side, he gets put down for a second lap. So that's already 4 times cars have been lapped by these race leaders. That is never going to drop until cars start falling out of this race. That's going to be a non-stop problem. Watching split screen, the battle for first top side, the ongoing battle for 8th on the bottom. That bottom battle's got Gas, it's got Cato, it's got Burke. Those are 3 playoff drivers who come into tonight with opportunities to get their way into the championship 4 on points. Very different optics, I would say, compared to the conversation we're having with Philip and Lariah.
Yeah, these conversations happen up and down the grid and across the teams even. Evan, when I talked to Michael Lariah earlier, went down there and talked to the team, and then his next concern after could he win and get in was, hey, listen, if I do win, he's like, can you tell me what happens? Does that put Nieto on the cut line? Is he out? And I was like, well, that's a points battle. But he was concerned about his teammate as well, was Michael Lariah. So it's interesting to see how those battles can play on, what can happen with them here. But look at this battle now on your screen, this 3-car battle. This is not uncommon to see at Martinsville, or see maybe where there's a 3-car battle, just checking up, creating accordion effects. But we'll see how this thing ends out here. Everyone's down on that bottom really well, right in the bottom of the corner, and tracking back out pretty well. So this is almost identical lap times around the track.
And we mentioned it's probably a must-win situation for Philip and Lariah, but not impossible. Take right now, for example, where Agno Philip runs would be 10 bonus points at halfway, where Sam Nieto runs in 7th, that would be 4. So that's a 6-point swing right there. So if you lose 6 points at halfway, and then you finish 6 spots lower at the end of the race, that's 12 points of a difference. If Agno Philip gets the bonus point he's already scored for leading a lap, that's 13. For the most laps led, that's 14. Phillips minus 16 into the night. So again, there are still situations where those drivers could points their way in. But the win is that trump card because of the effects it has on everybody else, right? The problem is, yes, Nieto, yes, Cato, they're both in Derek as we run. But if we get a Michael Lariah or an Agno Philip race winner, they leapfrog them all. And all of a sudden, even if Cato maintains where he is around all the other cars, he'll go from 4th to 5th if somebody below him wins. So that's the issue for everybody but Nieto. And again, for Sam Nieto, if Cato beats you by 4 spots, then you're the next man out. So there's a very realistic situation where there's only 1 points-paying position into the championship 4 that actually makes it out of this round, whereas coming into tonight, of course, we've got the 2.
Yeah, and of course, and I think the bigger story in a lot of ways, when you look at who's up front right now with Agno Philip and Michael Lariah, there's a lot of people, Evan, who really, when this round of 16 began and we got to even to the round of 12, and we were filling out our own little private brackets after the race one night, I think everyone had these 2 drivers filled in as guarantees into the round of 4. No one thought we would be here at Martinsville with these 2 racing one another, possibly for the last spot, right? I mean, because I'll tell you this, it's not impossible, Evan. It would take a Michael Lariah win for both of them to have a shot to get in, but more than likely, these 2 drivers right here, that black car and that red and blue car, one of them will be happy or possibly happy, but at least one of them will be unhappy when this race is over, if not both of them.
There's an on-board look with Ross Cato, currently running in the number 9 spot. He's going to need more than that if he's going to points his way through to the next round, I imagine. The good news is, yes, he's still within about a 1.5 seconds of Gas in front of him in 8th, and then Nieto further up the road in 7th. But the gap to the leader will soon become a problem. We're talking about 20-second lap times with these leaders. These cars back here already 11-plus seconds off. So we're looking at a situation where even though they're battling for lead lap positions, you could be a lap down before you get to halfway. And then again, when the field really starts to spread out and when you get trapped down there a lap down, those yellow flags, if/when they come, may not even help you at that juncture. So overall pace, how quickly every single lap around this Martinsville Speedway is all still important. And again, still watching this battle between Agnew Phillip and Michael Araya, the battle amongst teammates in the A51 Pro X Altus camp, where there's only one ticket for the two of them likely into the championship 4. I think an ideal situation for the group would obviously be, can that alliance get both of their cars in? That'd be great. But again, I don't think the points support that situation. And it's, again, interesting that those drivers highlighted in purple on your time and in scoring, the cars that are locked in, more than a second and a half now off of these two who are looking at checkers or bust.
And I was thinking in my head, Evan, every week we have to talk about pit strategies and who wants to pit early and who wants to get new tires and who wants to be off cycle. But darn it, Evan, the penalty for pitting here can be massive, right? This is a very slow pit road, and admittedly a slower racetrack. But I mean, what I mean is pitting here under green is a 2, maybe a 3 lap process to get down to your pit stall, get your tire, your stops done, and get back out. If you pit here early, you're putting yourself at a massive risk of a yellow flag coming out. You're putting yourself at a massive risk of being stuck here. And if you're a Michael Araya who wants to swing for the fences and you try to pit early and you miss, you will miss for good.
And you wonder how these drivers are pacing themselves accordingly to the cars around them. Is Agnew giving it 100%, or is he conserving a little bit to make sure this car can get all the way to green flag pit cycle? And is it the same question for Araya? Is he basing his pace on what Phillip's doing, or is he pushing all the way? Battles again all the way through the field. It includes for P12, even if they're a lap down. It's Braden Whitaker and Eric Papanow. Papanow made the move on Whitaker just down there in 1 and 2 the last time by. So the Meineke Chevrolet moves up a position. Whitaker down 1. The other thing that's interesting to me is, with the exception of that race car there in second spot, we haven't seen much movement throughout the field. It seems like qualifying was a pretty good indicator of race pace to this point. In the drivers in the red, you've got Cody Harris -2, and then Freenosh, Whitaker, and Maddox -1. Drivers in the green, Soa and Papanow up 1, and then Araya, the biggest mover, up 3. There's no big swings in any direction, surprisingly, outside of the top 5. Normally, it's somebody who doesn't put in a Q effort or qualifies poorly, right? It is, to many people, seems easier to kind of make up spots midfield, but more movement at the top of that scoring tower than anywhere else.
And maybe that just speaks to what short track racing is, Evan, and how maybe enough people don't practice it week to week on the sim. It's not a track type, I think, that gets visits a lot at the top tiers of NASCAR in iRacing, but it's a real skill to get up here and race with this. And it said in the pre-race or in the opening laps, a lot of people are scared of it. Listen, we're, a good number of laps in here. We're, almost 60 laps in, but go race this thing in officials this week. And you probably won't be green for 60 laps. You may not be green for 6 laps in officials this week. So, there's a big fear of this track. And so therefore, not enough people really get practice at it. And therefore, it's, the cream of the crop. And then everyone just kind of is where they are in a track like this.
That is the case. Look at this midfield. There's about half the field somewhere in this battle. Sam Nieto, top of it all. Gas, Coop, Cato, and Burke. This is a pack of 5 cars, battle for P6 on back. This is the kind of group that when your leaders catch them, you're going to get more of a fight, right? When the leaders caught those cars fighting for 13th, 14th, whatever it was, okay, they really didn't put up much of a fight. They kind of got out of the way. When you look at the consequences for drivers going a lap down, if you're Agnew Phillip, you get to the back of this 5-car train, they're not going to be in a rush to pull over unless they're your teammate. This is going to be a long fight. They're not there yet. These cars center at 3 and 4. Agnew's about halfway down the backstretch. But again, as these green flag laps continue and Agnew Phillip and Michael Araya can continue to keep up the pace that they're running, they will catch that big pack of 5 at some point, and that's when things are really going to get interesting.
And even that pack of 5, your positioning is so important, Evan, because if you're the driver in the front of that pack of 5, you're going to get a pretty big buffer by the leader trying to get around the first 3 or 4 cars before he finds you. So, that can be a pretty big advantage given to yourself by being in the lead of this pack. So if I was them, I'd be racing to make sure I was the front of that pack and not the tail of that pack, if at all possible here, to see what may come of it here as we're watching again Lariah and Phillip just turning laps here. And man, I'm impressed. Listen, Lariah was being a little aggressive in the beginning, Evan, to really rattling some bumpers of Cody Harris and Peter Irons, get him out of the way so he could get to Agnew Phillip. But since he's gotten there, Evan, look, he's calmed down. He's got that pace back under him. He's not really beating the bumper off of Agnew Phillip, just kind of calm and cool and collected and waiting to pick a spot here.
Yeah, he got really close to the bumper 2 laps ago. He thought maybe Lariah was going for it at that moment and then didn't. That secondary fight also still ongoing at the bottom of your screen. That's the number 2 car, Sam Nieto, under the 20 of gas for P6. That 2 got a little bit loose off at turn 4, and now they're in contact into turn number 1. The 2 gives a bit of a shot as a parting gift to Brandon Gass, who will now gap him a little bit down the back straightaway. So aggressive stuff in the midfield. And again, last time I said they were halfway down the back straightaway, these cars were in the center of the corner. That time they were kind of at entry. That gap continues to shrink with every passing lap.
And don't forget that battle with Nieto and Gass is also relevant, Evan. Those 2 drivers came in, I think, 12 points apart tonight for a transfer spot. So, they're still battling for something. There's a reason to battle right there. It's not just for the race spots. It's to see what they can make of it, who can make up points. And right now, Brandon Gass is ahead of Nieto by 1 spot. So not enough spots to make up, all points. But sometimes you got to try something and see what happens. What you see top of the screen is your leaders. Bottom of the screen, that's Austin Coop on the bottom of the screen there from RSR Broadcaster, trying to get up under Sam Nieto and see if he can get that pass made. But man, the problem with passing at Martinsville, Evan, is that there's only really 1 lane here. There's not, where we've been the past weeks, and maybe a Homestead or a Vegas or maybe even a little bit of a Bristol we did a few weeks ago, where there's multiple lanes and multiple groups. Here, there's one way to pass someone, and it's the bottom of the racetrack in the corners.
And of course, when everybody's going to park the bus on the bottom, that is where the chrome horn comes in play, and drivers will physically remove the race car in front of them from the line. I will say, maybe in real life it's a touch easier to just kind of square somebody up and move them. On the sim, you got to tiptoe around it a little bit more to make sure you're not spinning somebody out. I think that margin is a lot smaller, and the sim can react a little bit tricky sometimes when you make that kind of contact, but same rules and principles apply, and that is end of the race, cars on your bumper. You expect him to be ripping that ZL1 badge off of the left rear if you're looking for the perspective of Michael Lariah. Now, this early in the race, no surprises at all. Things are clean amongst these top 2. You mentioned that likely racing into the evening, that sun already setting behind the grandstands. You get a little of it in your eyes when you're the drivers coming off at turn number 4, but still shy of 1/3 distance. I think we'll be locking this one up with the lights on before it's done.
Yeah, it is important to talk about that sun glare sometimes, especially when you're coming into a corner, is how much that can really mess with you. That can really mess with your braking point, with what you can see, depending on what your braking point is. A lot of drivers here at the track, Evan, will use those sponsor signs or sponsor boards up on the wall as your braking points here. And so if you're picking one of those as your braking point, and next thing you know, you come through a corner, there's nothing but glare in your eyes, you're kind of guessing about where your braking point is, right? You're kind of hoping to hope you get it correct, and it can really mess with your consistency here. Watch the leaders now coming up around a lapped car, and all is good here on this lap. But yeah, that glare can really mess with you.
75 laps into this race, that is 50 until bonus points are paid out, and that might just slightly give us a better picture once those are cashed in on where things stand in the points as we run right now. But the cat and mouse game continues up front, and if Agnew Phillip has a hope of maybe pointsing his way in, the points that he is collecting along the way are big. He has led every single lap thus far, and if he leads all the way to halfway, that would lock up that second critical bonus point for the most laps led. Those are the only 2 bonus points available to anybody in the field here in tonight's race. Looking back at that 2 car of Sam Nieto, it's been he's been in a lot of the battles tonight, unfortunately on the losing end of the last 2. We saw Gasket by him when we were watching the battle amongst the leaders. Austin Coop, non-playoff car, got by him. Remember, Coop only just barely failed to advance out of a round earlier in these playoffs. It feels like he has a competitive race car to still be a factor in these races, so 2 spots lost for the 2 car.
Yeah, a couple of spots lost, and the bigger loss is about to be the fact he's now got the leaders right on, coming down here, trying to get him quickly. This is Ross Cato behind him for now, but when the leaders are not far back, and that may be the bigger loss to this car. But I mean, look at Ross Cato all over the back end, and this is the points battle, Evan. This is the battle for that spot, because coming into tonight, it was Nieto in 3rd, Cato in 4th. They were separated only a few points. Well, if you assume that a new winner happens tonight, only one of these drivers will get in.
And the way they run now is the driver leading this race happens to be the one driver who maybe had a little bit more of a realistic shot of trying to points their way in. Again, still a long shot, but Phillips minus 16. A way better chance than minus 20 for Lariah. It doesn't sound like a lot, a 4-point difference, but 16's already pushing it so much that if you're Lariah, you are very much, I think, squarely in that must-win situation. And with it not being Lariah leading this race right now, again, I think it is coming down to the one points pain position, at least how things look with them running on the racetrack at the moment. Still those top 2, and again, it's a little bit tricky to tell at this point. Is it a aggressive battle for the win? I feel like every time I see that peak to the inside from Lariah, okay, here's the moment, and then I don't know if the 44 really needs to push. Again, he may just be riding around right now, marking his pace based off of the 94 and have no intention of making a stink earlier than he has to.
Yeah, probably just getting comfortable with, hey, he's going to school. Well, not that he needs to. Michael Lariah is a very accomplished driver, but if I can sit here and go to school off one of the best in the service, learn how to turn some laps, learn where to make my corners, how to be patient, Agnew Phillips not exactly a bad teacher to sit behind and make happen. But man, you're right, he gains so much time in the middle of that corner. Every lap you almost think this is the one he's going to bump, this is the one he's going to make the contact, and then he sort of backs it off and then keep going here. And we'll see now. We're going to pass around Steven Soa again here in just a moment, probably out of this corner, I would suspect, and they'll make that happen here. So pretty calm night overall in Martinsville. I think part of it is the car count. As the series wraps up, maybe a few less cars than we're used to, and I'm hoping a lot of names show up next week to kind of send the series off in grand fashion. But sort of for Martinsville, maybe it's okay that we're not a full field. It's a little less chaotic than normal.
Even look back to, let's use 2021 as example, where there were 65 different drivers who competed over the course of that season, and then you look to that Martinsville race late in the season, and that one even had some car counts in the kind of mid-20s as well. First bit of action on pit road, it's Peter Irons who's down pit road. We haven't talked about him in a little while since he dropped back from 3rd where he started this race, was just very stagnant. Remember, he wants to try to win to maybe prevent Agnew Phillip from being a championship foe in Phoenix. Well, that car in and out of pit lane. It is a clean enough stop for Peter, 14.4 seconds in the box, but simply by coming down pit road, that's going to cost him at least a lap in the running order, if not more than that. I think he's actually being scored now at just the 1 lap down, so it could have been worse for him, but that's interesting. That's an early decision. Curious if that's an inkling of a 2-stop strategy here at Martinsville, as now Michael Lariah making some contact on the bumper of race leader.
Well, and it's also an indication of what he said last week. He wants to do anything possible to keep Agnew Phillip out of the Final Four. So listen, when you already have your race win, you've already locked yourself into next week. Why not do something different and see if you can make just a big swing at this race and maybe affect, winning it at the end? Because, he didn't have to worry about all the points, what ifs, and the hows, and the who's, and the wheres. He knows he races next week in Championship 4. So you're right, though. It's a bit of an early stop. It did catch my eye when it happened. So we'll wait and see how this goes. But man, look at this battle with Nieto here. I mean, it was right in the middle of this battle. It's himself, Cato in front of him, Bradley Burke behind him. And this is the battle of 4, 5, and 6 in the points coming into tonight. So these guys all know they're racing for something, and they're all sort of probably a little angry, little hot, little heated. Want everyone to move out of their way, and no one's getting their wish.
Still quiet on driver radio. That's a good kind of litmus test to how frustrated drivers are getting. Again, by Martinsville standards, things are calm for the moment, but still a long way to go in this race as we've almost knocked the first 100 laps of this race off the board. And again, Agnew Phillip has still at every single one of them. There are 9 cars scored on the lead lap right now. Bradley Burke, the last car on the lead lap in the number 9 spot. Iron's the only only playoff car, I should say, not on the lead lap, of course, so that's because we just saw him come down pit road. I think for everybody else, not to kind of undersell the dynamic state of this strategy, but I think it'll be similar, Dirk, to what we've seen in weeks past, right? Those bonus points get paid out at halfway. You cash in the points, you leave. Remember with Michael Araya, though, he was in a position to score a lot of halfway bonus points just recently. Pitted before that, I think we calculated what it cost him, 6 points or so, and man, that would have made a world of a difference in the math coming into tonight, because minus 14 sounds a lot better than a minus 20. I'm curious if he changes his game up, trying to maximize points, or if again he feels like maybe it's too late and will also forego points in order to take a strategy call that he feels like gives him a better chance of going for the win.
Yeah, I think he'll just do whatever it takes to win. I mean, when I talked to him pre-race, he just kind of told me this is a win and in. He didn't see a path on points. You know, he says it's going to have to be a win. So could it mean he pits a little early? Maybe. It could also mean he pits a little later. You know, it's sort of ironic when you think about it. The race he pitted before halfway last week, Evan, was he was running that high side of the track, ripping the wall at Homestead, and he sort of ran it out of gas. But tonight, he's sitting behind Agnew Phillip. Now, at a track where we don't talk about draft, we don't talk about any of your things, he is still saving minor amounts of gas by riding behind Agnew Phillip down these straightaways. So it did pop into my mind about 10 laps ago. Hey, I wonder if he can outrun Agnew on a tank of gas here, just because he is saving gas by running behind him.
We'll see what the play is, and don't look now, but Cody Harris has re-entered the conversation. The fastest car on track is now that man in third and last week's winner. How does Cody Harris play a factor in this battle for the race lead? He is within 0.7 of a second, and if he wants to push it, has a legitimate chance at going for the top spot here. Curious to see how he will approach this.
Yeah, that will be curious. I mean, last time by, he was about 0.2 of a second faster when I looked than the drivers in front of him. Now, typically, I would be the first one to say, hey, 0.2 is not a lot. But in a track where you're only taking 19, 20 seconds around the track, that's a pretty sizable margin, right? So he's put himself back in the picture, back in the camera shot, as now you see Sam Nieto there up ahead of our leaders. And so Cody Harris is sort of up here involved in this battle, and it makes me wonder, would he want to win tonight, Evan? Or is his goal maybe to make sure his teammate gets the win tonight?
And it's fun watching these three drivers in particular, right? You've got Agnew Phillip, part of the A51 Pro X Altus group, same with Cody Harris. On the other hand, you've got Michael Araya, who's part of the Flat Out Esports group. That Flat Out Esports group, by the way, has clinched the RSR Teams Championship, and they will be team champions in 2024. Obviously, that is a group effort. Sam Nieto on that team as well. Bradley Burke, Michael Araya. No surprise that they're team champs with 3 drivers in this round of 8. But they are hoping to avoid a situation where none of those drivers make it onto the championship 4. Again, team championship locked up for the Flat Out group, but they would love to have Michael Araya carry that torch for them into the Phoenix Championship next week. There's the on-board look with Harris as he continues to stalk the battle for P1, and they've caught some more lap traffic now. Sam Nieto, next man up to go a lap down. Sam Nieto, somebody who entered tonight again as the highest point sitter of those who did not have a win yet. I do not imagine the 2 car wants to make this easy.
No, he doesn't want to make it easy at all. He's going to want to stay in the way and hope for a yellow. There's no one more so hoping for a yellow flag right now than Sam Nieto. That's how you feel when the leader's right behind you at a short track. You're just kind of begging for someone to loop it around or hit a wall or anything. You're begging for that voice to come across the iRacing service and say, you know, caution's out, and see that yellow flag blinking on your screen. You see here, they're just being very patient with Sam. Agnell's just kind of biding his time. Knows there's no hurry here. There's no big reason to get up here. And we're just at, 100 laps in. Agnell's confident he'll make the pass sometime. Here it is on the bottom. He'll now get him in the 3 and 4.
Big moment in this race, maybe an even bigger moment in the championship as the 2 of Sam Nieto goes a lap down at lap number 109 here at Martinsville. Phillips by him, Laria's by him. Now there's going to be a small window of time in which Sam Nieto is the lucky dog. That's important. Yes, he would like to have the yellow come out when he's on the lead lap, not have to take the wave by, but as the first car 1 lap down, he would be the occupant of the lucky dog. I say for a short period of time because here comes Peter Irons, who just pitted not that long ago, also 1 lap down with the 2 of Sam Nieto, and now he has passed Nieto. Nieto, for a moment now, no longer the first car 1 lap down. It gets even deeper, Derek, because Irons has got enough pace. He's going to go and pass the leaders. He will unlap himself, then Nieto will once again be the first car a lap down. So it is a very fluid situation for the 2 machine.
Yeah, so we can see how patient Peter Irons is here with the leaders. Obviously, he doesn't want to do something and affect this race with the lead, but when you're the faster car, it's hard not to be impatient at a track like this. It's hard not to accidentally bump someone or make contact. And listen, if you don't jump on this opportunity, if you're Peter Irons, those tires will wear off, and then you don't have new tires. Then you're sort of stuck here a lap down. It's newer tires than leaders, but that's what that advantage has, gone away to a certain extent. I mean, last time by, Peter Irons is almost the same speed as these leaders because he's trying to be patient, trying not to bump them or wreck them or be in the way. But eventually, I think he'll get a little less patient as this goes on.
So far, so good for the most part on the patience meter, as that 44 Lariah now goes high to allow Peter Irons to pass on the bottom. That will about triple the gap between Phillip and Lariah. You would expect the 94 to lose the same amount of time when Irons gets back hit by him, and we'll see if it equalizes. Again, Irons only able to do this because he's off cycle with everybody else. He pitted 27 laps ago. We think on a fuel strategy call, might have a chance of pushing things. Tire-wise, though, the math would suggest he is due to come back down pit road again later in this race, but that's why he's able to go around these leaders. He's got better tires. Also noting, Steven Soa was down pit road 9 laps ago. Again, that's kind of in between the 2 and the 1-stop strategy. We'll let you know what the number 75 does, but with that 1 of Irons now unlapping himself, here comes Michael Lariah looking for the opening on the inside of Agnell Phillip for the race lead. Side by side, first challenge tonight, and the 44's got the preferred lane on the inside. First to the gas, first to get around the 94 car, new race leader at lap 117. Michael Lariah goes to the point.
And boy, what a difference track position makes, Evan. We saw there where Peter Irons really got around Michael Lariah going into the corner and quickly made the pass and got out of the way, got back in between them. When it came to Agnell Phillip, he stuck Agnell to the outside. And he stuck him outside for almost felt like a whole corner. And that allowed Michael Lariah to get up here and to make that pass as smoothly as possible. So there you go. New leader for the first time here in 100 and some laps. And it's Michael Lariah. Now he's going to be the first car battling the lapped cars. And we'll see if maybe Agnell Phillip gets the same benefit from a different lapped car that Lariah got there in that moment.
We'll see how they play this. Agnell Phillip losing the race lead shy of halfway, so that second bonus point not yet secured for him in terms of the most laps led. Both Lariah and Phillip now with 1 point in the bank. That is courtesy of the lap led each. 5 laps from halfway home this time by, then we'll dish out a whole host of additional race points and see where things stand. But This lap traffic now getting by far the busiest it's been tonight. Burke now, the latest driver to go a lap down. That also means Nieto's short period of time back in the lucky dog spot is now gone, and it is now Bradley Burke as the driver in position for the wave around should there be a yellow.
And in both times now, we've seen lap cars come into play here with the leaders in the past 5 or so laps. Both times, it feels like Agnew Phillip has gotten the short end of the stick here, Evan. I mean, you know, obviously we saw the pass of lead, but even right there with Bradley Burke, just where Agnew caught Burke, it just did not allow Agnew to get that full rotation of the corner he wanted. And look at that gap that now exists between the leader and second place. Look at that gap that was not there before. So right now, Agnew Phillip is definitely just not having a fun time with the lap cars. Now let's see Ross Cato's next. Let's see what Ross does here and how he behaves around these lapped cars. But man, that's, I mean, half a corner it feels like between Lariah and Agnew Phillip.
There's a shot off of the back of the car that is in the way of your race leader now, Ross Cato. We do not expect that 12 car to be an easy pass. He's going to give it everything he can to be in the way. Remember, it was he and Sam Nieto who came into tonight as the two drivers in the point spots. Well, Nieto's already lost his lap. Cato's at P8. Cato 2 points ahead of Nieto on track at the moment as they run, but he would also score 2 more points than him, given the bonus points. So 2 + 2 = 4. That's the gap, Derek. These two essentially in a tie as they run for the last spot in on points. And Michael Lariah, your race leader, at halfway home. He cashes in 10.
There you go. That's a big moment for Michael Lariah. I mean, he thought there was no way to get here on points, but those big 10 points right there, those will help a lot in helping close that gap. And, of course, Agnew Phillip now only 9 points, so that puts him a point behind Evans' point projections from earlier of where he could stand after the halfway points. So, man, things heat up a little bit before halfway. Now that we're past halfway up, and there it is, I start to say, here comes pit stops, and right on cue, here they all come.
And look at that. They are all down pit road. Now, Andrew Freenosh and Cody Harris pitted last lap. These cars pitting this time by. Is that one lap enough to make a difference? Look at them stacked up. Look at Agnew Phillip essentially pushing the 44 car down pit road. It is an exhausting 35-mile-an-hour pit road speed. There goes the 88 car. Freenosh blends out as these two cars blend in. That inside curve of pit road for your top pit stall getters based on qualifying is big on the race off of pit road under yellow. What is it like, though, under green? Here's the race off pit road. Agnew Phillip gets ahead of Bradley Burke, and both of them get ahead. What has gone wrong for Michael Lariah, who is still in the pit box?
Black flag, Michael Lariah. We need to check and see why, Evan. But the sim is currently giving Michael Lariah a black flag. Would it be speeding, maybe? I don't know. But there's something wrong here for Michael Lariah.
It'll be from the penthouse to the outhouse for Lariah. This is an absolute disaster as that car is still on pit road. Only now is he going to blend back out onto the racetrack as Agnew Phillip and Cody Harris drive by him, and he is now 2 laps down compared to those cars. What an insane twist at the halfway point in this race. Surely an insurmountable difference for Lariah.
Evan, I'm still waiting to confirm, but I believe I have it as speeding onto pit road. I have Lariah's over 40 miles an hour hitting the cone. So I believe it's going to be a speeding onto pit road that is going to kill Lariah's playoff hopes. If not, watch this here. This will be the review, or the viewpoint here. There's your cone. And I had him clocked at over 40 miles an hour at that yellow cone. So I believe it's going to be speeding on the pit road.
And remember, iRacing will give you a little bit of a buffer, but I see the front tires hit the line at 52, the rear's at 46. He knew he went in too hot because he slowed all the way down to 30 miles an hour. And I think, you know, my initial thought was, yeah, we saw the 94 rod in the bumper of the 44. Thought, you know, could he have forced him into a speeding penalty? I think the reason Agnew ended up on the bumper of Lariah there was because The 44 knew he was too hot coming into the pit lane and tried to kind of overcompensate to go even slower to see if that average speed could balance out. Either way, this is an insane twist for Michael Araya, who had done everything right, took the lead at the halfway point, cashed in the bulk of bonus points, and is now relegated down to 11th position. And again, 2 laps down. I don't see a situation where he comes back from this. There's just too many other cars ahead of him, either also 2 laps down or just 1 lap down. That means he's not going to be in the situation to get a lucky dog. If we even get a yellow, right? We've gone caution free through the opening 134. Who's to say you can't do it for the 114 to go?
Evan, there's so many words that you can use in that scenario as a commentator, but as a driver, it's demoralizing, it's defeating, it's outright frustrating when you do that. Because listen, the truth is, it's you, right? You made the mistake, you went in too hot. You know, you can at times people want to blame the software, blame the service, blame the official, blame this, blame that, but ultimately at the end of the day, you did it. And you're just going to sit there and you're going to beat yourself up, you're going to be mad, you're going to be angry, you're going to be, as you said, insurmountable. If we know that, likely he knows that it's almost insurmountable for Michael Araya. It's not impossible. You know, a string of yellow flags really could change some outcomes here, but boy, for Michael Araya inside that car, it's got to be just difficult right now.
And that is what this modern era of playoff racing produces, right? It's not just as easy as taking the NASCAR points and copying it over, right? There are some changes. Yes, it's the 4 rounds. Yes, it's 16 cars. Bonus points are handled differently, though, in terms of carrying over. The winning you're in stays the same. But when you have a championship that has these moments, it is just a simple mistake like that somebody of that caliber will rarely ever make, that can be the difference and can make all the hard work done over the course of the 28 previous weeks null and void. And what you're looking at now is Peter Irons as the leader. We expected this. He pitted earlier on his own. The question is, does Peter Irons go 165 laps to the end of this race? Again, I think it's doable on fuel. Is it a good decision on tires, though? That's going to be the question, again, if he can go all the way. Everybody else wanted to pit rate at about lap 120. That fuel number may be even still a question, but do we see Irons come down a second time? And then there's Brandon Gass. Brandon Gass has been out there for 142 laps. He's the only driver to not pit at all in this race. Both he and Minazzi Major a couple of laps down, though. We can kind of use Gass here, I think, as the benchmark Derek on fuel, right? If he can go 165 laps on fuel, which would be about 23 more laps, then maybe Irons can do it. But Gass, completely different strategy. Yes, he came into tonight as the first driver on the outside looking in at only -6, but I'm wondering if this strategy to stay out, try to catch a yellow, was formulated knowing, you know, hey, Agonal Phillip, Michael Araya, those guys were leading. If one of them wins this race, I go from 1 out to 2 out. Maybe Gass feeling like he has to go off cycle to also go for the Peter Irons strategy and just try to swing for the fences and win the race.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's the Hail Mary throw. It's waiting for the yellow to come out and see if you can maybe land yourself some better track position, because you would think right now, you know, depending upon when these drivers have pitted for Peter Irons or for Agonal Phillip, everyone might come down pit road if we get a few more laps in, just to kind of, you know, calm the mood about fuel or put new tires on it and not be trapped on older tires. So that's what you're hoping for if you're Brandon Gass. And right now, I mean, hey, currently he's in on points. Of course, that's going to change a little bit when he finally has to pit here, but currently he's in for the moment, and he's got a very upset Michael Araya behind him here, so we'll wait and see. And not that Michael's upset at him, Michael's upset at himself, but it's, I feel for Michael Araya. Talked to him pre-race, he was excited about this, he was looking forward to it. In a way, Evan, it says something about the heart and the will and the desire of Michael Araya to race, that he's willing to still be out here racing, knowing he likely threw away his seat in the Final Four.
And I will go as close to the words of saying it's done as you possibly can without saying it, because I've learned in the, you know, many years of covering this series that never say never. That rule applies to these RSR Monday nights. That rule applies to anything else on the sim as well. But you can never say for sure. but things trending not in a good direction. As we see now the number 94 car, by the way, of Agnew Phillip passing gas for P2. Yes, that's for position, but again, they are on different strategies. Take it with a slight grain of salt. And now Agnew Phillip within 8 seconds of taking the race lead back from Peter Irons. So this time by will give us one of the last major benchmarks and milestones in this race, as there are now 100 laps to go in this Team Conti Sim Performance 250 at Martinsville.
Now, the concern I have for Brandon Gas at this moment, Evan, is that car obviously is off pace. It's older tires. It's not going to get through the corners as quickly. It's not going to get off the corners as quickly. And what I mean by slower is compare him, a 20.499 last time, compared to Cody Harris in front of him, a 19.818. Compare it to a 19.717 Andrew Freenosh, who just passed him. That's almost a second difference a lap. When you're that much slower at a short track, it's not impossible to get yourself run over just because of the speed differences. And here he comes.
So he is in, and that will be the magic number 151 on laps for fuel for Brandon Gas. So if that is his maximum, then that would tell us Peter Irons would be unable to go the distance. He would have to get about 164, 165 laps out of it. Again, this is all just guesswork. Gas may just be coming down pit road anyways because he's hit the number that he feels like he stayed out as long as he can. But again, that would make me feel a little bit more sure that Peter Irons will be back down pit road. There's also a scenario in where Irons has enough fuel to get to the end, but gets caught by Agnew Phillip anyways. Agnew is better than him on the racetrack right now. That's probably courtesy of the fact that his tires are about 40 laps newer. But it is a very different look to this race than it was before. And yes, Cody Harris is third at the moment. He's running about 6 car lengths off to the back of Agnew Phillip. But I don't see any scenario in the world where Cody Harris, you pass your teammate to steal a win from him right now. We've seen it before in the NASCAR Cup Series. I remember just a couple years back, Jeff Gordon needing a win at Martinsville to advance through. Dale Earnhardt Jr. leading, Gordon in second. You'd think certainly you'd give the win to the teammate behind you, and it didn't happen. I feel like here on the sim, though, there's just no logical scenario where Cody Harris and Agnew Phillip really fight this out between the two of them.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty awkward Discord call next week, wouldn't it? With those two in the same Discord room for the Final Four, if Cody Harris goes and takes away that spot from Agnew Phillip. I mean, my concern for Agnew Phillip right now is a couple, Evan, which is one, the good news is he is about 4/10 of a lap, and sometimes faster than Peter Irons, although that's starting to level up a little bit as they're both getting in a little bit of traffic here. But as we saw with Agnew Phillip earlier with Michael Laraya, catching the leader and passing the leader are two separate questions, right? It's much easier to catch him than it is to pass him here. And listen, Peter Irons is the driver last week in the interviews who said his goal in some forms is to keep Agnew Phillip out. So is he necessarily going to wreck Agnew Phillip? Of course not. That's not who Peter Irons is. But he's going to make it as difficult as humanly possible for Agnew Phillip to get in. And I'm pretty sure, Evan, I don't have the points live like you do, but I mean, right now, Agnew's out. There's no way I don't believe that Agnew Phillips is out of the playoffs as of this moment. Right now, it would be a mix of Nieto, Cato, and Brandon Gas fighting for those two open spots on points.
I think Peter Irons' attempt, and again, I don't think it's disrespect either to Nieto and Cato, who were the two drivers in on points coming into this, but if you look at the numbers, would you rather race against Agnew Phillip, who's got 8 race wins, or Cato and Nieto, who have got none combined between the two of them so far this season, right? Yes, they're incredible points racers, but I think that's an easy bet for Irons. And again, I don't think Irons is going to be somebody who's going to, get in the way of Agnew Phillip or cause further issues. I think his form of trying to win this championship is to put forth maybe more of an effort here tonight than he thought he would have to a couple of weeks ago. I don't think he thought that he'd be in a situation where maybe his biggest championship rival, or one of them at least, right, with Harris and Phillip, would be in a spot where he needed to win. I think Peter thought he won the first race of this round. He was going to take these few weeks off. He'd show up, but he wouldn't have to sweat it out. I suspect this one car cares a whole lot more about this Martinsville race than he thought he would have needed to when he got that race win to open this round just a couple of weeks ago.
Well, and it's sort of funny, we talked to Andrew Freenosh last week, who said he told Peter Irons, hey, don't worry about it. Go practice Phoenix. Go get all the laps in at Phoenix as humanly possible. Hold on. Big news. Here's Peter Irons down pit road with less than 100 laps to go. This is going to give the lead back to Agnew Phillip.
So as expected, Irons is not able to make the fuel number. The number 1 car is down pit road, and he may end up being the only driver on this 2-stop strategy to try to make this work for the race win. He was getting caught, and now you're going to see an absolute blitz from Peter Irons for the rest of this race to try to make those fresh tires work. Let's see how many laps down he goes. He's parked in the center of 1 and 2, working lap 165. There goes Agnew Phillip and company on lap 166. So he's going to be about a lap and a half down from the leaders. Can he use tires that are only 40 laps better to make that ground up?
Yeah, that'll be the question. That's the thing we're going to have to track here and see how it works, and who, does what, who lets him by or who doesn't let him by will be the big story here, right? Because he's going to have to spend part of those new tires getting around some of this traffic. But look at this line of cars right here. Look at this. I don't know if it's a gaggle yet per Matt Malone standards, but we're getting close to being a gaggle of cars, Evan. It's right here, all combined together. We got Cody Harris in there. You see Ross Cato's in there. I mean, a lot of relevant names in this pack right here, all racing to see what they can get out of this.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people in different spots, right? You got your leader, Phillip. Then behind him is Burke. Burke's the first car lap down in 4th. By the way, that's the pace that these top 3 have. Then Harris P2, then Cato a lap down, then Friedosh in 3rd. So there is a lap down car separating each of your drivers in the top 3 as they run right now. Again, I don't see a situation where Cody Harris goes and fights his teammate Agnew Phillip for this race win. But Andrew Friedosh has a little bit less skin in the game as the most successful driver old time in series history, a 4 times consecutive series champion. Agnew is also, or I should say Andrew is also somebody who's not going to do anything dirty with Agnew Phillip. But if Andrew Friedosh is faster than you, he's going to pass you. He's still looking for a race win, a walk-off race win at that, as he searches for one more in his career. And this Martinsville Speedway is a place that Andrew Friedosh has seen a lot of success, Derek, and to be fair, that can be said for most of the racetracks on the calendar. But let's go into the vault for the second to last time this season and throw it back to this Martinsville race back in 2020. We talked about drivers in a must-win situation. Friedosh needed to win that race to take home the championship in 2020. At that time, he was in search of his 3rd consecutive, and it came down to a last lap, last turn pass for the checkered flag.
You know what, and Evan, those are the moments why we sim race right there. Those are the moments that you do any kind of sports for, whether virtual or not. You think about those moments as a kid, whether it be being a member of the Yankees in Game 7 and hitting the home run, whether it be racing your way into the playoffs with that last lap pass or whatever it be. I mean, look at this moment here, right there. That's the moment of the pass. And it's hitting the 3 in the NBA Finals. It's winning the Daytona 500. That's what we dream about. That's what you think about. That's the moment you try to personify as a kid. And to do it for Andrew in that moment, that had to be pretty darn satisfying.
It was a race that Michael Laraya, by the way, finished 3rd in. He's always been good here at Martinsville. He made that pass on the last lap ahead of Dylan C. Jones, former competitor in this series, former driver who competed at the highest levels of racing here on the service. Andrew's lap lead tally for that race, just 1, only leading the final lap of this race. Is it going to be a similar moment for Agnew Phillip? You draw the parallels, right? Friedosh looking for a 3rd straight championship, needing to win at Martinsville, getting the walk-off. Is it going to be the same situation tonight for Agnew Phillip, looking for a 3rd consecutive championship and needing a win to secure the opportunity?
And boy, there's all those questions last week, about Agnew not able to race last week and what could have been had he been able to, he came in and started parked and took minimum points, but how different would this be had Agnew been able to race last week, Evan? Maybe we'd be having this conversation. Maybe he'd already be in. who knows what would be, where we'd be in those moments. But boy, if you're Agnew, the best news you have right now is that pattern behind you, lapped car, lead lap, lapped car. It makes him feel good to know there's all this buffer behind him. Sort of a moving chicane of sorts.
Just watching intervals, by the way, Freenage has dropped back from these top two. I don't think it's a factor of the lap cars that are intertwined with this, but Andrew's gap to those leaders is now 3 seconds. So he has fallen off at about that last lap, 2/10 in that lap alone to Agnell and Cody. So the gap growing for those top two. Again, Bradley Burke wants to stay in front of this 28 car as long as he can, because if there's a lead lap car behind him, it's job security for the Lucky Dog spot. But I think that's going to come to an end right here and to make things much more interesting. The 28 gets by. Again, that's not for position, but here is a battle for the first car 1 lap down. Peter Irons' better tires means that 19 can't do anything about this. And the Team Conti Sim Performance #1 car gets on by. Irons now up to the number 4 spot. Similar situation that we saw earlier. Burke now no longer in the Lucky Dog spot until you see the track map on the bottom right of your screen, until that one gets to the 94. Until he can get around Cody, get up to Agnew Phillip, unlap himself. At that point, Lucky Dog would go back in favor of Burke. Again, all of those situations huge for the potential timing of a phantom yellow that may come. It may not happen. We don't know, but Bradley Burke's hoping if it does, it doesn't happen in the next 5 laps, because that timing would be pretty awful for him.
Well, look at that. Peter Irons obviously wants to get by. But look at that. He had a small bump into Cody Harris there, trying to get him up in the corner like he does, just barely out of the car there. He is on a roll and wants to get the advantage of these tires while they're still good. He is at times anywhere from 2 to 4 tenths of a second faster, depending upon the lap, than our leader, Agnew Phillip. So he will definitely unlap himself. That's not the question in my mind. The question in my mind is that extra 20 seconds back around to find Agnew Phillip again. That's where I start to question, is this doable, or what can happen? I think Peter Irons needs a yellow flag once even right now, I guess, but he needs it especially after he's around Agnew Phillip to make this strategy work, I think.
And we're officially night racing here at Martinsville. Again, you see the splits there. Irons, the 2-stop call, 96 and 164. He's going to try to use tires that are about 40 laps better to make up a lap and a half on Agnew Phillip late in this race. The pace itself is not the problem as he's gotten around him. The question is, as this goes on, with each passing lap, the percentage that Peter Irons' tires are better than Agnew Phillip will go down lap by lap. Yes, he will be faster than him all the way until the end of the race, but 1-lap tires compared to 40-lap-old tires, that's a big difference than 80-lap-old tires and 120-lap-old tires. So that amount that he makes up per lap is going to get slower and slower as the night goes on. Now, 63 laps might as well be an eternity here at Martinsville, and he picked the benefit of the fact that, again, a whole lap around this place is still sub 20 seconds. So he would only need to make up 3/10 per lap to be able to make up that 20-second difference in these next 60 laps. Still not sure it's going to happen. But I've said this a few times, Derek, when we've seen these drivers go on the 2-stop call that, man, it's been a while since I've seen somebody get them, right? Just completely catch the field sleep and go on an alternate strategy and win the race. And I feel like it'd be a nice way to end the season, to mix it up one more time. So Peter Irons trying to be that guy here tonight.
Yeah, look at the times on your screen here. Look at Peter Irons. Those green numbers on your right means he is outpacing our leader, Agnew Phillip. Last time by total numbers, Peter Irons a 19.662, Agnew Phillip a 19.9, so about 3/10 of a second. That's what you said the goal was. And at times, Peter Irons has had this up to a half a second faster. Now, the problem is not the raw lap time for me, pardon me, Evan. The problem is going to be, though, once Peter Irons catches the field, how does he manage that? Does that slow him down too much? Does it kill the run? And what does it do with it? Let's watch it again. Look at those green numbers. I mean, that's good news for Peter Irons. I mean, 2/10, 3/10. So we'll see how he manages this here. This sort of racing it as hard as he can, almost racing it like he stole it from somewhere. But I think once he catches the field here in a moment, those numbers are going to begin to decrease little by little.
Yeah, lap traffic is going to hurt him. And again, his average needs to be 3. So if you're early right now when that tire advantage is better than it will be at the end of the race, you got to be hitting 4s and 5s at this point. And again, to your point, every time he gets to a lapped car, he's going to have to deviate from his preferred line. That's going to cost him some time, and that is going to work its way down and down. And again, those numbers don't look in favor of the one of Peter Irons, but as we famously said, never say never. Update on some of the other drivers throughout the field. 3 cars have gone to the garage in this Team Conti Sim Performance 250 at Martinsville. Mike Maddox, Braden Whitaker, and Steven Soa to the garage. They will finish 15th, 14th, and 13th in this race. They're the only drivers to go behind the wall in this one. Benazzi Major is 4 laps down as he runs right now in the number 182 machine, but I do say that, want to give a shout out to Benazzi Major. It was just 2 weeks ago where he made his 100th career Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series start. Benazzi is somebody else who was in a position to, compete for race wins, was a consistent driver, had points, qualified for the round of 12 in these playoffs, and a tip of the cap to the Rogue Wave Racing driver for hitting triple digits in old-time career starts.
Yeah, that's a big step here for any league to come in and be able to do 100-plus races and have those moments. We have multiple drivers in RSR who've had numerous starts and been here for a long time, as I keep studying the history of RSR and finding out how long it's been going and seeing some old race recaps and the vault clips, you realize these drivers have really been committed to RSR. And as it comes to an end, a lot of drivers are ironically having that talk of what's next. It's almost like you're graduating or you're moving on from a job you've had forever. Because a lot of these drivers are trying to figure out, hey, RSR has been a part of my life for, in case Andrew Nash for years, for example, and that question of what's next is a difficult one to really manage. Yeah, I'm going to give a small preview and teaser for next week. It's not really a Manning cast style show, but Evan's been working on some clips and maybe some guests next week, I heard. So Evan, we might have a pretty awesome pre-race show.
That you join us early next week. We'll be starting Countdown to Green at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, hoping to talk to some of the top names who have competed in this Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series from the past, bring back some broadcast talent as well who have been a part of many major moments in the history of this series back into the broadcast as well. That all leads up to the Tim Conti Sim Performance 156, the championship race at Phoenix. And then we hope you stick around after the race for the Extreme Performance Motorsports post-race show, where we'll just chat with any drivers that want to pop on by as we celebrate the storied history of this RSR Full Throttle Cup Series. Again, that's all next week for the series finale, quite literally, at Phoenix Raceway. We're inside of 50 laps to go now here from Martinsville. Things are status quo. 1.3 seconds, Phillip over Harris. It is now a 4-second difference, though Harris to Freenach. So very clearly that threat from that third driver has diminished.
Yeah, it had diminished a little bit. You're right. I was looking at the lap times myself here to see that where Peter Irons stands and what's going on here. So the threat is still there a little bit. I mean, Irons is still faster, but it is slowing down. So, Evan, tonight for the Manning cast, it was Bill Belichick, Lawrence Taylor, LL Cool J, and Bill Cower. Do we have anyone of that stature lined up for Countdown to Green next week?
It's going to make that one look like amateur hour for sure.
Got it.
And if you want to hold me to it, you got to show up and tune in. So again, 8 o'clock Eastern. Hope that you join us early for that one. We'll watch this battle for 5th. Did want to take a chance to say thanks to our friends at Team Conti Sim Performance for being the title sponsor of tonight's race. They're also the sponsor of next week's season finale as well, and encourage you to visit them online at Team Conti GG for more information. They offer not only setup offerings, but personalized coaching services as well. So if you're looking to get better on the iRacing service with access to not only eNASCAR level setups, they have drivers competing right now in the Contender Series. If you're looking to even take it a step beyond that, though, and actually get some one-on-one training with some of their driver coaches, scan that QR code on the screen now or visit them online. That's Team Conti, CONTI.GG for more information, and we appreciate them being the title sponsor of tonight's Team Conti Sim Performance 250 at the Martinsville Speedway. It's now the Team Conti 40, because we're nearly at 40 laps to go in this race. And now is when we've had moments like this where there's been strong performances, dominant performances, and now those drivers who have had those good nights just kind of think to themselves, where can this go wrong? And especially in a place like Martinsville, Derek, these laps are going to start to feel a whole lot longer than 20 seconds for Agnew Phillip. Just hoping that nothing on the horizon is scary, that no yellow light pops on his dash. Yes, he's in a comfortable situation right now without variables, but if racing didn't have those variables, I don't think it'd be any fun. We've seen some wild finishes. Is tonight going to be one of them, or will this be a triumphant statement for the best driver of the last 4 years, I'd argue, to finally get back to Phoenix and try to walk things off with a third straight title?
Yeah, this is an important question. And you and I have talked before that I think that time is relative in a race car, right? But for Peter Irons, especially, time is moving at about an 8-speed acceleration right now. The laps are just moving faster than he can imagine inside that car as he's trying to catch up here to your leader. But you're right, for Agnew Phillip, 20 seconds might as well be an hour. It might as well just be the slowest amount of time you could think of. And every moment he hears a tire, skid, a wall contact, anything, he gets nervous and sort of just cramps up, hoping that it doesn't lead to a car. So, but speaking of cramping here, Evan, here's a couple of lapped cars right up ahead of our leader, and that's going to be maybe a small problem for Agnew Phillip. Do they move out of the way? And if not, how much does Peter Irons catch up here? Remember, he has this lead back down a gap to 5.2 seconds. He is making up time. He is getting there. But look at that lap traffic, Evan. If those cars don't move out of the way quickly, this is good news for Peter Irons.
And I cheated. I put the numbers into the magic number machine, but if he's going to make up 12.5 seconds in 37 laps, that was the numbers the last time by. What does his average need to be? 0.3 of a second, exactly. Actually, 0.33 seconds per lap is the number that he has to hit if he's going to get there. There are no moral victories. Peter Irons has a really good chance at finishing top 3 in this race, which guarantees we get to at least ask him about this strategy, because he's only 6 seconds back from Freenage. But there is no moral victory for third or second. None of that matters. You don't carry any points into the Phoenix finale. He's already there. The only thing that matters to Peter Irons is if he beats Agnew Phillip in this race, Agnew Phillip likely does not qualify, and by all measures of statistics, Peter Irons' chances at a championship go up. That is the only thing he cares about.
Yeah, that's all he cares about. I mean, we talked about it numerous times now. That was Irons' goal for last week. Now, the other problem I see for Peter Irons, by the way, is that car behind Agnew Phillip. That's his teammate. You would want to think Cody Harris is going to play a little bit of traffic cop when it comes to maybe not letting Peter Irons by. He doesn't necessarily want Peter Irons to pass. I'm sure Cody wants his teammate in next week. I mean, Peter Irons indicated that they had a two-person alliance, but I doubt that heavily, Evan, that Cody Harris would do anything to break that trust of his teammate in Agnew Phillip.
And the waiting game that Agnew Phillip plays is the waiting game that we play as well. What are the point situations as we run at the moment? Remember, at halfway home, it was a big points haul for Michael Araya, who had taken the race lead. Things were looking up, and then a speeding penalty, we believe, on entry to pit road cost him greatly. He is back to being just 1 lap down, but if he needs to get to Bradley Burke to be the first car lap down, you're looking at about 3/4 of a lap. The Flat Out Esports machine not in a situation. The only thing that would help him at this point, A, he still needs the yellow, but B, he would need to stay out, hope those top 4 come down pit road, get his lap back the old-fashioned way, then need a subsequent yellow to get tires. Again, it is a long list of variables that have to fall in favor of that 44 car. Meanwhile, the battle for that lucky dog spot is an important one, and that's the fight we're looking at right now. Bradley Burke is 5th, Ross Cato is P6. A lot on the line between these two. It's all for a hypothetical, but I'd feel better sitting in the hypothetical catbird seat than the guy chasing him.
And Evan, more than the lucky dog spot, I believe this is the race for the last point-paying spot if Agnew Phillip wins, because after the halfway points, we had it sort of calculated privately. that Sam Nieto was 2 points to the good on Ross Cato. But right now, Cato sits 6th. Nieto sits 10th. I believe right now, if Ross Cato sticks where he is, likely he will be the last person in. He will bump Sam Nieto out. And of course, right here, the car in front of him, Bradley Burke, also fighting for a spot as well. He was back there tied for P5 after the bonus points. There's a lot of battles still going on here, but I think right now Ross Cato not just battling for Lucky Dog, but battling for that last spot into the Final Four.
We'll try to crunch numbers and give you as close of a guesstimation as we can get, but of course, after the checkered flag, stay with us and we'll let you know who is the final spot in on points, because as they run now, Agnell Phillip would join his fellow race winners from this round and Peter Irons and Cody Harris as in to the championship 4, and there would be only one single points paid position on the line. And if Agnell can close this one out, an impressive stat that's not even that deep is that for a series, Derek, where you see smaller field counts and you think it can be overrun by drivers, we would be looking at the 3rd consecutive round where all 3 races in each round were won by a different driver. I mean, there has not been one name who has walked over everybody else in this postseason.
No, there really hasn't. And we've seen maybe someone win, you know, in each round or in multiple rounds, but no, each race has been different. It's had different people win, and maybe that speaks to the different varieties of the schedule with road courses and super speedways and short tracks and mile and a halves, and how we have drivers who are great at each individual style. But you're right, it's been fun. It's not been as predictable as maybe some people thought it would be, and that's leading to some of the incredible racing that we're seeing right here. Here's Ross Cato, by the way, under attack right now, Evan. He's under attack by that car body, which I believe is Austin Coop, if I can get that car vision correctly. Yep. It is Austin Coop. And Austin Coop would love to pass Ross Cato, maybe not aware of what he could possibly be doing.
And we learned last week that Austin Coop is going to run his own race, and he is not going to move over and get out of the way for playoff cars. So, well, yes, he has a lot less on the line in this fight than Bradley Burke and Ross Cato do at 53 machine. If he's faster, he's going to try to pass these guys straight up. Coop also has the benefit of having about 10 lap better tires than both of the cars in front of him. Now, again, it's the difference between 100 lap old tires and 90 lap old tires, so it's not like they're stickers, but it is still an advantage nonetheless. And with 20 laps to go, you're looking at 3 cars that could cause a 2-point swing either direction for any of these drivers. That could be big. Here comes Coop underneath the 12 car, this one for P6.
Wow, there's a moment. We saw Coop get all kinds of wiggly there out of that corner. Obviously wanted to get into gas a little earlier than maybe he should have, as that car moved around Evan, and that could be a nervous moment for everybody in this race if that car does loop around here. So wait and see what happens. But right now, man, if you're Ross Cato, I think you just need to back out and let him go. Don't race for him forever. Don't let other people catch you. Well, but Ross Cato is just addicted to the spot, now way up high into those marbles. Ooh. And now he's good.
That's going to cost him a ton of time. You're right. I think if Coop's better and you let him go, then you let Coop get around the 19, then you two can fight again, because the difference for Ross Cato and Bradley Burke, the point is what matters. And if they're 5th and 6th or 6th and 7th, the point is still the difference. Now, he put up a big fight on Coop and is now almost certainly too far back to be able to challenge Burke.
And we think right now with that pass, it's a 1-point gap between Cato and Nieto. That doesn't just mean if Cato falls back. What if Nieto moves forward? What if Nieto passes Michael Lariah? What if Nieto passes Brandon Gass? That would close that gap. And Evan, of course, RSR has tiebreakers that we can talk about. But darn it, you don't want to put yourself in that spot here. You don't want to go home thinking the what ifs and the woulda, shoulda, couldas. Just don't put yourself in that spot.
Yeah, if you start talking tiebreakers, you're already in a spot that you don't want to be in. And this one is living up to the billing we've known all year. And really when these playoffs started, given the percentage of cars in the field that were playoff drivers versus non-playoff drivers, that we were going to be looking at razor-thin margins no matter what. Sam Nieto gets out of the way, allows Cody Harris to go on to bye. Nieto's down 2 laps, but this one is certainly living up to everything that it was hyped out to be. with the gaps. And, you take a look back at what things look like at different points in this championship and how this championship standings has evolved over the course. And let's go back to the end of the round of 16 when we had 16 drivers competing for this championship. The difference between Austin Coop and Andrew Friedosh in round number 1 point. That was the difference for the final transfer spot. You fast forward to the end of the round of 12. That time, it was us taking a look at the elimination of Austin Coop. He was out by single digits as well at 7. So these have been close calls all season long, all playoffs long. And Bradley Burke way up and into the nasty stuff that time in 3 and 4 as he missed the corner, getting chased down, and Austin Coop has gotten around him.
Yeah, Bradley in a moment there where I think the car in front of him is having a connection problem, so I think he was kind of scared about where that car was. That's why he's up in that area there. But I mean, I think Austin Coop's having an internet problem here. Evan, look at that car blinking in and out. And that's creating some confusion and some frustration and some uncertainty, maybe for Burke and Cato and others behind them. And sort of a moment here. So we'll wait and see if that all resolves itself or what happens with it. But right now, this is your front runners. I mean, really, Agnifilip has walked away with this race tonight. Evan, a driver who told me he thought this was winning in. He was going to race it that way. He didn't care about the points. He just knew this was the easiest way to do it. And minus those few laps that Michael Araya led before that unfortunate moment on pit road, this has been the Agnifilip show.
It really has. And if Austin Coop's connection issue continues, that could give more points back in favor of these cars. It would be another point for Burke, another point for Cato, another point for all of these drivers inside of the final 10 laps of this race here in Martinsville. Phillips gap down to 6/10, but it is friendly fire behind him. Likely not a challenge. Can he lock this one up? What happens with Coop, and is that to be another point swing?
Yeah, and just to put a stamp on something we don't see on screen right now, the tire advantage has finally worn off for Peter Irons, Evan. He is now actually a little slower than Agnifilip. So that gap is kind of done for the moment. Agnifilip is safe from Peter Irons. But there's not I mean, you hinted at it twice, and I agree with you, but there's not a way that Cody Harris races this, right? There's not a way that Cody Harris gets up there and his sort of pride and his racer mentality takes over. There's not a way that Cody Harris gets up there and makes a bump and puts his teammate out of the playoffs, right?
You would not think so, but what's the line that I've dropped a couple of times tonight, and that is never say never. Austin Coop, by the way, has been told to park the car coming down pit road due to his connection issues. So that car is on pit road. That will give an additional points paying position to a handful of drivers and now puts Bradley Burke in the lucky dog spot should there be a yellow. But it's going to be 3 laps to go this time by for Agnifilip.
3 long, grueling laps of just waiting, at least 2 of them, because once the white flag comes out, no cautions will happen. So right now, if you're Agnifilip, you're just hoping to get around here. I mean, and Cody Harris is kind of closing that gap here. Maybe he's just doing it to prove he can, just to have some fun, but it's putting a little bit of doubt in my mind, a little bit of worry in my mind, and there's nothing here I don't believe, but it's just kind of interesting to see Cody Harris closing that gap.
It's 0.5 of a second. Agnifilip, the best thing for him to see is a clean racetrack in front of him, and he's got a half a straightaway clear. Barney waves the white flag. 1 lap to go at Martinsville. He'll total over 200 laps led. And yes, even though it's his 13th win of the season, this one is bigger than any other. Agnifilip wins the Team Conti 250. He's going to Phoenix to fight for a 3rd straight championship.
Breathe easy, driver. You have done it. You completed a goal. You are locked in to the finals. Great job, Agnifilip. Great drive. Great master class of a show. And he deserves every accommodation he'll get for this win.
An incredible drive For Agno Phillip, the thoughts of what could have been. For Michael Araya, those two had fought for the race lead for the entirety of the first half of this race, but in the end, it is Agno Phillip who's victorious in tonight's Team Conti Sim Performance 250. He joins Peter Irons and Cody Harris. The big three survive the gauntlet of the RSR playoffs and will advance to the winner-take-all championship that'll happen at Phoenix Raceway in 1 week's time. And now we wait on the calculators to see what story lies behind that fourth and final spot, which will go to the highest driver on points. We'll tackle that after we take a look at your Team Conti Sim Performance full race results tonight for Martinsville. And remember those indicators. Agno Phillip, Cody Harris, Peter Irons all locked in now as they finish 1, 2, and 4. It was another strong result for the four-time champ. Andrew Freenosh will get his thoughts as he comes home in third. But it's Burke 5th, Cato 6th, Gasson 7th, and then Michael Laraya, who had a chance to win this race, hit with a speeding penalty, ends up in 8th. That's not enough on points. He certainly isn't going to make it. Nieto, a disappointing 9, lowest finisher of the playoff cars. And Austin Coop, who was up at 5th position, parks it from race control due to those connection issues. He has to settle for a P10, not indicative of the car he had tonight.
Moving back in the field here and take a look at some of the other cars here. None of these on the lead lap. Manazzi Major 5 laps down. Then we come to the cars at much more laps down. Eric Papanow, almost 50 laps down. And Steve Soa, Braden Whitaker, and Mike Maddox round out a 15-car field.
It's a look top to bottom at tonight's full race results, sponsored by our friends at Team Conti Sim Performance. Well, let's cut to the chase and go down trackside, where for the 13th time this season, he is an RSR Full Throttle Cup Series winner, but he has had no win this season bigger than this one, the walk-off to advance to the Championship 4 for Agno Phillip. Agno, congratulations on the win. And you look at this year as a whole, this Championship 4 is certainly where this team deserves to be, but I'm not sure the whiteboard had it drawn up quite this dramatic when we started this round.
We got to give you guys something to talk about up here, you know? Like, there's got to be some drama going on. But, yeah, no, it's... Out of all the races, you know, life happens and you have to miss... or not really able to run, like, the full race for one race. It just so happened to be last week at Homestead. So, you know, really put that speeding penalty at Vegas, like, really kind of put it on, put more of the pressure on me for this one. And I did not have race winning pace. I mean, Michael was definitely faster than me. But you know, then he had the cops get him, I guess, the same way they got me at Vegas. So, you know, it's a bummer for him. But yeah, the Final Four field is very strong, and excited to see how it turns out at Phoenix. It would have felt, it would have been really disappointing not to make it after the season that we've had.
Tell us about the battle for the first half of this race with Michael. I mean, you start on pole, you lead almost all the way up to that halfway point, and then he makes the pass on you. What gave you the indication, to your own words, that you felt like he had the pace that was maybe better than you before that speeding penalty happened, where it looked like it was going to be you two going head-to-head for that last spot, both of you essentially needing a win?
Yeah, I mean, when somebody's able to run in your dirty air for like 40 laps and stay within 3/10, you know that they're probably faster than you. And I could tell I'd burned off my right front, especially more than he had. He had just a lot more kind of turn than I did center. But I had the track position. That's why I practiced qualifying so much. So I wasn't going to give it up. And you know, we had a couple close calls, I think. He's getting closer and closer. He's starting to give me some bumps mid-corner, so it was going to be interesting. And I knew pit stops would be kind of key too, with who got out in front of who. But yeah, I think you know, I think Peter was coming through on fresh tires, and I wanted to let him go just because I figured that would be faster than trying to fight. You know, and then Michael would get to my inside, and I just let him go. I just backed off way too much, and Michael was able to get to my inside, and I wasn't able to, you know, establish position again. And yeah, it's the outside here is just terrible. So, you know, lost track position. I wasn't part of me thought that's not great, but obviously a long way to go. I had no idea when we got into the pits that he got a black flag, and I was just trying to nail my run down pit road and nail kind of getting into my box and hoping I could just jump him that way. But yeah, then it turned out the way that it did, and then I thought we were in trouble when Cody got past us, but I guess he had been kind of struggling short run with the drive off, so I was able to get kind of back by him. Obviously, he's a teammate, so he was giving me lots of room and racing very respectfully. So it was stressful. That was a stressful 250 laps. I've never gone 250 green here at Martinsville before.
So you return to another must-win situation, essentially, in the championship for Finale. It's a place that obviously you're familiar with. You've gone through this format in 2022 and 2023 and walked away a champion. So you look at the names that you're going to be competing head-to-head against, again, still running the math on that fourth spot, but certainly against Peter and Cody. What are the similarities with the drivers you're racing against? Like, what can you draw parallels to in years past, and maybe what's different about the championship for this time around?
I mean, I think it's, both of the times that I've won, the first time was a bit of an upset. Obviously, Kevin had the dominating season that year, and he had the lead for most of that race. And then last year, I think I was pretty strong. I think on pace, kind of relative to the rest of the Final Four. I think this year it's going to be very tight. If it's Sam or Ross for that fourth, I don't know who's kind of battling for it, but among those four, especially with the kind of size of the field, like, it makes those strategy calls in some ways like so much more important, because you can kind of there's just fewer variables to like kind of mess up the strategy, to throw a wrench in the strategy. So you have to nail it. You have to make the right decision at every point, and it's so hard to pass at Phoenix. Even if you are good at saving your tires and can know how to run the place, it's still really, really hard to pass people, as was the case last year when I was running second to Tom a lot of the second half of that race. So it'll be tough. All of these things always are. That's the beauty and ugliness of this format, is there's nothing's a given, and I think everybody's going to have pace that's in that field. Everybody's going to show up prepared, and we'll just have to put a good Q performance forward and just try to show I'm good at Phoenix. I know that. So I think, if I get the prep in, I'll be fine on pace. I just think everybody else is going to be right there too. So, we'll see how it works out next week.
Well, we wish you the best of luck in that Phoenix finale, Agnew. We appreciate you as always. Congratulations on the win, and we'll catch you next Monday.
Appreciate it, Evan. Thank you.
He's your race winner tonight at Phoenix. Second place tonight, Cody Harris. Cody already knew that he would be going to the championship for, but it's a strong result, and Derek's with him.
Well, Evan's right. This is the driver who knew that he was in next week into the Final Four, and still put on a strong performance tonight. Cody, you managed to get your teammate into the finals.
Yeah, I wish there was right at the start of that run. When we came off pit road near each other, I just got on the gas too hard, or I forget if I drove in too hard. Whatever I did, I got loose on exit, which gave him position to get around me. And then once you just can't do much with passing here. But yeah, it was a good race. Felt good, and then hopefully next week can go even better.
So the question in the minds up in the booth, it felt like towards the end of the race, you were picking up pace, you were closing the gap on Agnell. There was no way you would have wanted to race Agnell in the last few laps, right?
I mean, a win's a win. It's nice to rack those up for the last couple weeks. You just get in an air bubble, and we were so close on pace that there's just no way to do anything without just completely missing the corner and driving through them. So once I got within half a second there, I think I finished 4/10 behind it. You just can't do anything with what you just get too tight in the center of the corner to get a run, and you have to both of you drive in so deep, you can't really set up a pass either with the way the car is.
All right, well, next week is, of course, the finale at Phoenix. You've had a couple weeks to know you're in. I'm not going to ask you the number of laps you turned at Phoenix, and that's kind of a secret, but you already turned laps at Phoenix, right?
Yeah, for sure. We got a lot more planned. More than one.
Okay, that's all left.
With the hot track, I think it'll be quite a challenge. So, should be fun.
All right. Well, next week, of course, the finale, not the season finale, but series finale for RSR. I want to ask you. I'm sure we'll talk next week post race. But what has RSR meant to you? Like, what is your earliest memory of RSR?
Just coming in back when it was a different car. It was just always such a good group of guys to race with. Met a lot of friends here. Sometimes when we're practicing, a few of us will text each other on a Discord and figure out what each other are doing a little bit. It's been a lot of fun, and it kind of led to me meeting Agnell and then getting onto the Road to Pro team with A51 and our partnership with Lockdown, which has been good. Nothing's quite panned out for me there yet, but that's been a lot of fun getting me with those guys too. So without this league, that stuff would have never happened.
Well, listen, bud. Well, great job tonight. We'll see you in 1 week, and we'll see if you can be the one to be the last RSR champion.
Yeah, that would be awesome. We'll put in the work and see if we can make it happen.
And listen, you have that bet. Don't forget, we have a goal.
Yes, right? For sure.
Goal. All right. Well, Cody, great night tonight, and we'll see you soon.
See ya. Thank you.
All right, that is Cody Harris finishing P2. I think we're ready to go ahead and catch up with our third place finisher. That will be Andrew Freenosh, maybe one of the best all time in RSR at this track. Andrew, this is a track where you have a couple years ago won your way into the Final Four with a last lap pass here.
Yeah, good memories here. Fun track, but man, we struggled tonight, to be honest. But man, that was a good time out there. Green all the way, Martinsville. I've never seen that before. Never been a part of one before, so that was a lot of fun.
When a race does go green like that for 250 laps, what is the biggest challenge? Is it pit strategy? Is it just saving tires? Is it keeping your kind of your head space for all 250 laps? What's the biggest challenge you face when you go green that long?
I would say a few years ago when I was younger, it was keeping my nerves together. But man, I'm gonna be honest. Physically, I was struggling there. When we got probably to like 50 to go, I asked my spotter, and I thought we were coming up on 10 laps to go. I couldn't see my laps. I had the black box on a different page. So, that was keeping your mental and your physical ability to keep going and hit consistent laps. I was struggling with. So I'd say tonight that's really what I couldn't do. I know Agnell and Cody and even Peter there was catching me. I was just struggling to hit consistent laps at the end there.
So when you have someone like Paul Bliss up in the spotter stand for you, helping you out and doing some work for you, talk just for a minute for me. For those who don't understand, maybe those who don't have spotters, who have never had a spotter, what does that give you in your mind? What is the advantage of having that others don't get?
I think the big thing, he can kind of look up front and see lines that I'm kind of messing up, or see where their shifting points are, or if we're in a few mileage race, kind of see where they're lifting and I'm not. Can kind of read lap times and tell me if I'm catching guys or getting pulled. So definitely and strategy as well. I mean, he can kind of see when our pit cycle opens up and stuff like that.
All right, well, listen, great run tonight, Andrew. I said a track you've had success at before. Now we move on to Phoenix, and hopefully maybe we can see you send the series off with one last win.
Yeah, definitely going to put in some practice, but, you got 4 really, really talented guys going for championship. Last thing I want to do is, wreck somebody for a win or get in the way of a battle. So we're going to go out there and just send this league off right. We're going to, put in the practice, put in the effort, and just see if we can be up front, have some fun. Hopefully we get a nice, hot, slick track. We can kind of really show what we can do and send this thing off right.
All right, Andrew, 1 week's time. We'll see you there.
Thanks so much, guys.
All right, that's Andrew Freenosh finishing P3. And Evan, I think you now have an announcement about the Final Four.
Yeah, that's right. We knew the math on the drivers who won it. That was quite easy for us. Irons, Harris, and Phillip, they are all through, but there was one other spot available, and it means that Ross Cato is headed to the championship 4 by 1 single point over Sam Nieto in the points. There's a look at your updated playoff grid, and we are caught up live now with that 4th driver. Ross, first off, congratulations.
Thanks a lot. I guess the irony being that Sam Nieto was the one to break the news to me. But yeah, that was probably the toughest pass, one of the toughest passes I've ever made. It's just this car track combo is just so difficult. So that pass that I made on Sam Nieto earlier on it took so much focus and concentration and exertion. But yeah, I'm floored to be in this Final Four, and I hope we can send this league off right.
Tell us about this night. Obviously, we come into tonight, everybody kind of knowing Agnell and Michael need to fight for a race win if they want to advance, but knowing that they both can't win. So there's going to be a points paying position up for grabs. And you are on the back foot, right? Yes, you came in above the cut line, but if one of those guys won, you got knocked out. So it's a 4-point gap to Sam. You know that's what you're managing. Just kind of walk us through the night. How did the bonus points at halfway play into that? How aware were you as well of that situation as the race played on?
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a tiptoe sort of strategy, and stage points were really going to be where I was going to be able to kind of strike first, I guess. So getting as much of a gap as possible in terms of positions before halfway was at a premium, and then trying to make sure that I widen that gap, or was able to just add to it a little bit by a few more points was the name of the game. But I just was in different battles with different drivers for many laps at a time, and like I said, it just took a lot of focus to just gradually chip away, and even if you couldn't get to the guy's back bumper, you still had to also worry about the defense with other guys on fresher tires. I wasn't really sure what Peter's strategy was, but I felt like he had something cooking. But all night I figured that Agnell Phillip was going to come in and leapfrog us, so that me getting more points over Sam was going to be what I needed to do in a do or die situation.
So you're in, and now you have to go against the big three, guys that have just kind of racked up race wins like it's been nothing. Phoenix is a racetrack that maybe hasn't been bad to you, but also hasn't been overly good to you, right? You look back to previous results, a P9 in 2023, a P13 in 2022. Those are the only two races we can look at least with this Gen 7 car. So what is the outlook for you over these next 7 days, knowing that, you know, there's guys who kind of altered their strategy throughout these playoffs because they felt like a P2 is not going to do it. And many will argue that that's probably the same case next week. So what's the idea for your next 7 days to find a roadmap to A, race win at Phoenix, but also B, then to get that championship?
Yeah, well, let's be honest. When you look into the four of us, one of these things is not like the other. I'm not necessarily a heavy hitter. I think everyone knows that. I am a winless driver. I don't quit, though. I try my hardest and try to perform at the best level that I can. So I think preparing for Phoenix, and it's a track that I've historically always liked to race at, is making sure that I'm at the best that I can be with the tire management, no matter what track temperature befalls us for that race, and making sure that I'm prepared for every scenario, so that when a late race caution comes out or some other kind of outlier situation happens, I won't be caught off guard. But it really is an honor to be competing for this. The main kind of carrot on a stick, if you will, in my iRacing career has been trying to get a race win in RSR, and an ancillary goal has been to make the Final Four, and it just means a lot to me to make this cabal of drivers racing for the championship as we say goodbye to this league. So I'm going to try to put in the seat time, get the practice in, and make sure that I know my braking points, my lifting points, my picking up the throttle points, making sure I can really nail pit road entry. There's just so many facets that goes into it. And even all that, even after I get all that right, it'll still be lacking because these three other drivers are just absolute talents. But most of all, it's going to be super fun, and I'm really excited.
And no matter how things end next week, we'll certainly talk with you after that one to recap this year and your career as well in RSR as a whole. But I'll take the opportunity, as we have with everybody all year, to say that we appreciate you being part of this series, Ross. Congratulations on this accomplishment, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks. Everyone have a great week. And yeah, we'll try to put on a show for y'all next week.
And it is your fourth driver in to the championship for Ross Cato. Going to give it to Irons, Harris, and Phillip. Can he be the ultimate upset? The championship 4 is set. And there maybe were a couple of bracket busters here or there, a couple of single-digit points of margins for different rounds here or there. I can't get over the fact that the round of 16 and the round of 8, Derek, both come down to one single point for the transfer. You feel for Freenosh, who missed it early. You feel for Nieto late, who misses it by one position over the course of these last 3 weeks. Lariah could have easily have won this race tonight. He ends up on the outside, but in the end, it is Irons, Harris, Phillip, and Cato who will fight for the final Full Throttle Cup.
I'm excited, Evan. This is going to be a dog fight. It's going to be just an all-out brawl, a Donnybrook, what do you want to call it next week for these 4 drivers? And, you know, Ross Cato right now feels like the ultimate underdog. He feels like he's a million miles away. But, Evan, you and I both know the fun of running the race itself is you never know what may happen. You never know what luck he may find, what may run his way. And I hope that Ross Cato can find a little bit of confidence before next week because, man, you're there. You're final 4. You've done everything you can do. Swing for the fences, my kid. Like, just go do it. I'm rooting for Ross Cato as the ultimate underdog.
He is the ultimate underdog. Let's talk about the setting, though. Next week, we head to the Phoenix Raceway. Drivers mentioned these cars, this track, in reference to tonight at Martinsville, difficult to pass. We'll probably see a little bit of that at Phoenix. I don't think quite to the same extent, right? You've got the wide open dogleg. It gives you exciting moments. In what now is turns 1 and 2, drivers will be routinely going below the apron. It is going to be a challenging racetrack, but I think drivers who excel on a short track like this likely going to also find success next week.
Yeah, that dogleg will likely play a big factor, as will the back straight with that tight, lane with the wall on the inside, and no mistakes can happen there. And many passing opportunities do exist if you can make them work. This will be a much different race than what we saw tonight at Martinsville, and who knows what will happen. It's all about just that one win. No stage points matter. Nothing else matters to those 4 except who can be the top running finisher at the end of the night.
We hope that you join us early for the RSR Cup Series finale at Phoenix. Countdown to Green and special pre-race coverage will begin at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and then the green flag at 8:35 as we kick off the final race of the year, the Team Conti Sim Performance 156. And then once the dust has settled and a championship belt has been handed out, we hope you stick around post-race and join us for the Extreme Performance Motorsports Esports post-race show. Until then, though, that is it for us here tonight from the Paperclip. On behalf of our entire team at RealSimRacing, RaceSpotTV, and for your broadcast team tonight. For our producer, Joshua Lee, for Derek Watson, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to say thanks for tuning in and congratulations to our Championship 4, Peter Irons, Cody Harris, Agnew Phillip, and the last man in at the very end, Ross Cato, will fight for a championship in 1 week's time. But tonight, the Team Conti Sim Performance 250 goes to Agnew Phillip. He looks to become a 3-time champion next week when we say let's go racing for the final time. That race, Monday, November the 4th, race starting at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, exclusively right here on RaceSpotTV. Until then, good night from Martinsville.